Hello and welcome to the Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast with me, clinical somatic educator and founder of Total Somatics, Heidi Hadley. The Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast has been designed to help you gain a deeper understanding to how your mind and body work. You will learn about your amazing mind and body and why over time you can feel pain, recurring injuries and poor posture. Within this podcast, I will teach you why this doesn't have to be your future or the norm for you. Would you like to learn how to reduce pain, move freely, and gain a new lease of life? Let's get started.
Hello and welcome back. Now, in this episode, we're going to carry on from the previous episode and consider the impact of stress on your body. So if you haven't watched or listened to the first part of this episode, please go back and watch the previous episode to hear, and then it's going to just flow on beautifully. But let us now consider how stress shows up in our body and in our soma. And the reason is that if we can start to increase our awareness to what is actually happening under our skin, this amazing world under our skin, when we understand what's happening, when we can sense and feel, and then have skills to actually recalibrate and reset what's going on underneath our skin, then that's where the power lies. And that's what I want to share with you today. Because as you know, we can actually start to change our state, and that state within our nervous system can either upregulate, so we can start to get really anxious and stressed. We can also downregulate and feel like we've got no energy and it's really hard just to get going. But also we can change our state to live in that little happy medium between, where we have a little bit of stimulation, but we have a little bit of relaxation. And in that way, that makes us much more conducive to interacting, working in everyday life, and keeping our muscles in more of a relaxed state rather than tense, tight and primed for some sort of stress response. You see, the reason I say that for is that people that have a lot of stress or a lot of anxiety, it shows up in their body. And I often say to people, you get a really good insight into somebody's subconscious when you notice their posture and notice their movements. Likewise, when we are noticing how we're moving, we're getting a really good insight into our subconscious too. And the reason I say that for is when we're stressed and when we're really anxious and when we're really fearful, remember your brain is a pattern creator. So it's creating tense, tight muscles. And that will start to show up by people feeling very stiff and being very rigid in their movements and having this also frozen wooden look as they walk. And also it impacts on their breathing. So you'll notice that their breathing is very shallow. You might notice tension in their neck because all they're doing is using the top part of their chest. There's not anything else being involved. And the reason for this is because if they're stressed, their diaphragm muscle is tense as well. And of course, we know your diaphragm has to be fully involved in lovely deep breath work. Likewise, the muscles that sit between your ribs are called intercostal muscles. And if they're really tight, they're not going to have the capacity to lengthen and shorten with your breath. And of course, if the intercostal muscles have no capacity to lengthen and shorten with breath, it means our rib cage becomes really, really rigid. And when that happens, again, we have no movement. And then that rolls on to something else, because if somebody has really rigid ribs, it means that their shoulders are impacted, their neck muscles are impacted. You'll either see people with the stooped, depressed, like stooped roll shoulders and depressed ribs, or you'll see people with their shoulders pinned right back and the back of their rib cage is really tight, as well as their lower back muscles. So either way, depends on how your brain is patterning that tension, you're going to find that the breath is impacted and your diaphragm and basically your rib cage as a whole. And also let's consider your pelvis. You see, your pelvis is the center there for that movement, that basically be able to create like spiral movements as we walk. But when you're stressed, the muscles all around your tailbone, all around your waist muscles, your bottom, your belly, your lower back, they get rigid. And when they get rigid, it means that there's no great range of movement in and around your pelvis. Your pelvic floor is also chronically tight, so that starts to create other issues too. And that's going to impact shock absorbency. It's going to impact that fluidity of when we move. We should have a nice bounce and a bit of rhythm as we move. Again, if we don't have that and we are really rigid in our center, then that's going to start to cause issues such as like lower back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, even up to your neck. Because when you're walking really wooden, there is no way to dissipate that ground force when we walk. So it's just jarring and jamming our back all of the time. But I'd like us to consider this because, you know, in previous episodes, I've mentioned how we have the same brainstem stress patterns of behavior as other vertebrate animals. And I'd like you to think of a family dog. I'm sure your dog, if you have a dog, is very happy and very content. However, have you ever noticed when your dog is nervous? Maybe it's when there's fireworks or other noises going off. Have you noticed how their tail tucks between their legs? That's the brainstem fear stress response. That is exactly the same as what humans get. When they are anxious, there is that stress response of tucking their tailbone up and under and rolling their shoulders forward, depressing their ribs, because in a survival mechanism, if you make yourself into this little fetal position, you're protecting your vital organs, you're protecting everything through your front. That is a beautiful, life-giving survival response. So we don't want to ever demonize it. It's really important that we have it. However, what we want to have is, again, that resilience and versatility to know when we're in it, when we need it, but then how to recalibrate and come out of that stress pattern. And that's where total somatics comes in, because total somatics will help to gently reset your brain's influence over your body by using specific movements to release chronically tight muscles, improve your movement patterns, whilst always reducing pain. Remember, pain, when we have pain, that automatically starts to impact our movement and our range of movement that we do, and also your breathing. So can you see, if we're starting to bring in specific movements to release chronically tight muscles and improve your movement, it will automatically have an impact on your pain levels. And also it's going to enhance the depth and the quality of your breathing as we come back into this state of balance. And the reason for this is that total somatics is brain training at its very best. And I can testify for this. For years of seeing this in clinical practice and also seeing it around the world with the Total Somatics membership. You see, people can feel pain, they can feel restrictions in their movement, they can see changes in their posture. And it really does impact in their quality of life because they can't do the hobbies and the interests that they love to do. But you see, when you feel like you're living in this corset all the time, so you're just locked in through the center and your ribs are hunkered down, it is going to make you feel really quite sad and depressed because you can't do what you want. Everything's tight, everything's pulling. And so as a result of this, you feel like you just don't live the life that you want to anymore. Well, can I reassure you that that's not the case? And with Total Somatics, I can teach you in the privacy of your own home, in the comfort at a time that suits you with the Total Somatics membership, how you can fully understand what is going on with your nervous system, how your nervous system is speaking to your muscles and your fascia and everything else, how your emotional makeup impacts again on how you move, how you stand, how you breathe. All of this I can teach you within the Total Somatics membership. Because the power lies when you start to understand why something is happening and then what you can actually do, the skills that you can do in your own home to reset your nervous system and come back into that state of balance. And that is because, to be fair, over the years, again, seeing many people online and also in person, people have been through the system and they've seen so many experts that have told them conflicting advice, labels and basically titles and prognosis. And that starts to really impact on their emotional well-being. And that then has a huge impact on their physical well-being as well. So I'd like to teach you skills in total somatic movement, total somatic mindfulness, total somatic mindset. And when you bring all those together, huge changes can happen. And so that's why I'd like to invite you that if you wanted to take the first step with me and just see how I can help you and also see the content that I produce for you, if you go to totalsomatics.com, click on the shop page, and the very first digital course that you'll see there is called Release Tight Hips and Back. And in September, I'm going to be holding this special event for anybody that has purchased that digital course recently or in the past. And every week, I'm going to cover one of those 4 modules, and I'm going to answer your questions in Zoom sessions. So you'll be invited to watch it live, or you can watch the replay. And then you can ask me questions, and I can show you how we can create adaptations, or why you may be feeling certain things, or how we can then enhance the practices that are in that digital course to add even more benefit to your health and well-being. So if you'd like to join me for Somatic in September by really focusing on that course and how I can help you release tight hips and back, go to totalsomatics.com, click on the shop page, and then scroll down, and the very first digital course is called Release Tight Hips and Back. And then you and I can do this together through September, and you keep that digital course forever. So it's yours. So until next time, all my love and best wishes. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.